Our last guest is all over the place these days, starring in and directing films, pushing his favorite charities, and lobbying for liberal causes. If hard work and perseverance are national traits, this man's work is as American as his blue eyes and winning smile. At an age when most men think about retiring, Paul Newman is just getting started in a turbocharged racing car. We caught up with him just before a big race at Road Atlanta. It's been a frustrating morning for Paul Newman. He's been at Road Atlanta for 3 hours, waiting for his crew to give him and his Nissan the green light. His car stops again.
It's such a perfect day to be out there running and to get a leg up on the people who aren't here and to see it disappear minute by minute is pain in the rear. It seems as though the older you get, you have a finite amount of time, and you can see the end of the pike, and you know you've got a certain amount of races, and so when you lose an hour, I think you respond to it a lot more than you do when you're young.
He says he's running out of time. He's 62 years old. By that age, most men have come to terms with time spent and time remaining. You might not know that Paul Newman has been racing on the professional circuit for 10 years. He says acting and car racing are alike. Acting helps him with the kind of concentration it takes to negotiate successfully a snaking track at 170 miles per hour. If you knew Paul Newman, you wouldn't be surprised that at a time when most men are thinking of retirement, Paul took up auto racing for sport. Risk comes naturally to him. 30 years ago, Newman says he became an actor to get away from what he feared would be a dull life as the manager of the family sporting goods store.
Oh, I got a hunch, fat man. I got a hunch it's me from here on in. One ball, corner pocket. I mean, that ever happened to you? All of a sudden you feel like you can't miss?
Fast Eddie Felson, the cocky pool hustler on the make, was one of his first successful characters.
When I'm okay, I'm pretty okay, and when I'm bad, I'm really bad. And that extends into almost everything, from The Silver Chalice, my first movie, which was a miracle, miraculous that I survived it.
You wore a toga, I believe?
No, I wore a cocktail skirt. Nero got the toga. It really made me angry.
Not one of your favorite movies, I guess.
One of my favorite movies.
He's waiting for you in the card room. Let him wait.
His acting career spans almost 4 decades. He's appeared in nearly 50 movies. Even after all of his successes, he still questions his acting ability.
I think probably the best actors are the actors that come from their guts and then filter it through their heads. I work the other way. I get it in my head and I filter it down to my guts. I don't think that's an effective way of working.
In fact, he says it wasn't until his last 3 or 4 pictures that he figured out what acting is all about. It seems he figured it out by 1986. He revived the Fast Eddie Felson character, and the following year, after being nominated 6 times, Paul Newman won his first Academy Award.
When you won the Oscar, it was your 6th time up. I mean, did you think, this ain't gonna happen? I'm not gonna win it. It's happened so many times. Or did it not matter?
Well, I think when you're young, things like that matter a lot. as you get older, the only thing that really matters is the work and the experience of doing the work. The only thing that you really remember is not the Oscar, but what you do remember is whether it was fun to get up in the morning.
He's directed plays and films. In fact, his latest effort, Glass Menagerie, stars his second wife, Joanne.
Does he drink?
Why do you ask me that?
Because your father did.
Mother, don't get started on that.
Years ago, in his first director role, she also starred. Joanne Woodward won her first Academy Award nomination for Rachel Rachel. Later, she won the Oscar for Three Faces of Eve. Meanwhile, Paul was only getting nominated. He was the superstar without the Oscar. She was the Oscar winner without the superstardom. Still, their marriage has lasted 30 years. How do they do it?
Oh, if I could answer that, God. I mean, you could make more money than if you had that answer than you could if you could figure out the stock market. I think the trick about a successful marriage is to think about murder but never divorce.
Now let's get serious just for a minute.
I'm very serious. I've been serious since I came in here. That's why no one will know that I have a sense of humor.
No one will know, that is, unless they have seen Newman's face on a jar of popcorn. His blue eyes also grace bottles of spaghetti sauce and salad dressing. He calls it his lunatic food business.
The funny part about it is, it was understood from the beginning that once you had your face on the bottle of salad dressing, you could no longer take yourself seriously. And I think that's prerequisite in this business.
Most of the profits from the Newman food sales go to building a camp for terminally ill children. But perhaps his most important charity is the one that hits closest to home.
The National Institute on Drug Abuse estimates that over 7 million people have used PCP.
The Scott Newman Foundation was set up after Newman's only son died from a drug overdose.
It looks deceptively like a marijuana joint, but PCP is much more powerful.
To this day, his son's death gives Paul Newman's life much meaning.
The Greeks had the right idea. It was very much a part of their philosophy that that if you were fortunate enough to become fortunate, then at some point you return that good fortune back into the community.
But I really mean it. I think it's absolutely critical for all of us now. I think what's happened in this election is that we found that we have a people's army.
Giving back something to the community thrust Paul Newman into the political arena. He was an early demonstrator for civil rights. He's been an active Democrat since 1968, when he campaigned for Eugene McCarthy.
What we want is quarters from McCarthy. We want $50 from McCarthy. We want what you've got in your pocket from McCarthy.
He was a delegate to the Democratic Convention that year, and Jimmy Carter appointed him to a special UN Arms Negotiating Committee.
Because people have got to know whether or not their president is a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
It doesn't bother Newman that his name was number 19 on President Richard Nixon's infamous enemies list. Unlike some politicians, Newman doesn't think he has all the answers.
I'm smart. I might even be very smart. But I don't think I'm smart enough to be President of the United States. Now, I think that people who are not smart and who know that they're not smart, if they have the arrogance then to run for the highest office in the land, I think they're immoral.
Still, Newman has considered some sort of public office.
I had that aspiration at one time. As a matter of fact, I came down to it. I was going to do a column for Cable News Network once a week. And I came down to Atlanta, and we worked on that. I wrote it and worked on it for an entire day, and it was absolutely awful. And as I say, I'm a slow starter. It would take me a year to change gears completely around and get my thinking involved, and I don't think I would have the luxury of that kind of time. I would lose before I would figure out how to win.
Time. Growing old. It eats at Newman. You wouldn't think so. When he was 42, he played someone who looked 28. At 52, he played the character of an over-the-hill hockey player who looked a decade younger. Some say Paul Newman is ageless. He has become the classic American sex symbol. You can bank on it. Corporations do.
I'm Arthur Newman. Women would love to get their arms around my brother, Paul.
Now, your brother's doing the Dean Winter commercial. He looks just like you. I mean, it really catches you.
He sounds like me.
He does.
Oh, he laughs like me.
I mean, after you saw the commercial, did you call him up and give him a critique?
No, I asked him if he wanted my job.
But still, he has his flaws.
Well, if you see my legs, you'd know where Purdue Chickens got its major advertising from.
The knees and the bony legs, I heard. But is it true you dunk your face in ice? Is that true?
I used to be a sauna freak, and I used to jump in the river every morning from whether it was June or December. The kids used to have to go down and cut holes in the ice. But yes, I like to find an abrupt way to wake up in the morning.
You need a jump start.
I need a jump start. Always have.
Since we talked with Paul Newman, his life continues with the ups and downs of a roller coaster. His latest directing venture, The Glass Menagerie, plays to critical, if not box office acclaim. But his racing partner, 66-year-old Jim Fitzgerald, died last month, crashing one of the team cars.